Ivy League school, like we're just trying to like get out of poverty.
You know, if it's my resume and your resume, but I know the guy, I'm gonna get the job.
That's a privilege.
It's just luck.
Yeah,
No, it's a privilege. It's an institutionalized
and that's
privilege.
okay.
You would all agree there are two different types of immigration, right? There is illegal immigration, there is the people who are breaking the law and crossing the border.
Some people are lucky and some people aren't. It's just that simple. And it's hard to accept. The world's a cruel place.
Do you think you're accepting of the system because it's worked for you?
There are institutional and systemic barriers that prevent some people from becoming successful.
I don't know if anyone that has millions of dollars has ever ridden a bus, but you don't understand that your day would be 4 hours to get somewhere back and forth as opposed to a 20-minute drive. And so the shift in all these things that happen are highly destructive. And it's not that people become lazy, it's because they become overwhelmed.
Education, access, knowledge,
Accessibility to almost everything.
redlining.
But that's like how complex adaptive systems work. The number one determinant of outcomes is your initial conditions. Like that's biology. That's how the complexity systems, that's how the universe is designed. Right. So, you know, it just is what it is. Like, you know, like that's how the nature of the fabric of biology is. And so, you know, we can sit here and complain how it's not equal, but that's just how it is. Like, of course, it would be a utopian society where everybody, but then we could have that if we had, like, imagine we had unlimited energy, right? Because money is just stored energy, right? Like, that's all. You go to work, you expend your energy, they give you dollars, right? And that's where the real disconnect is. You're getting dollars in exchange for your energy, but then the dollar is losing its value and you don't know how to offset that, so then everything gets a little bit harder.
And more energy you put out.
And so, but all my point is on this is like, there's for sure barriers. Like if you're in a club, you know the right people, your network is your net worth. I mean, that's just how the world works. And like, I don't really think there's any way to unwind that.
I mean, it's interesting to hear you say that it's a fact of biology in the universe when we know that these are man-made systems. We know that these are man-made policies. It's not that, you know, the universe or God or our biology has determined that it's right to redline. These are man-made policies. That's not just how it is. It's how you, as someone who has been born into capitalism, has experienced the world and as like life views have been shaped. And if we're thinking also about, you know, racialized capitalism, we're thinking about the institutionalization of white supremacy. It's really interesting to see, honestly, how that's coming up in this room, by way of how I'm hearing like, or I'm just kind of, struck by hearing that it's like a fact of biology and the universe, that these are barriers.
Sure, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you just think about an actual like Sierpinski's triangle or something where it's where you start has the most, this is just math, like the most determinant outcome, like, is based on your initial condition, not what you do. Like, I mean, look, you go to Chipotle, the guy who's grilling the chicken's working hard, right? There's a lot of people working hard. And like, I think that's the whole American dream thing is like, you want to believe that if you work hard, that you get results, right? And I think that's what we're talking about here. But what I'm trying to tell you is most of it's just luck. Where you were born is the most important thing in determining outcomes. Now you can overcome that for sure, no question. But I'm just telling you that like, it's, you know, that's how the systems work. Like, and that's how you can do it in a non-human system. And you can see this as well. And that's what I meant by biology. Like, there's all kinds of complex science that like just shows this.
Right.
Feudalism and monarchy has been the norm throughout history. So totally. We had an aberrational period where democracy and the people had a moment. But like, I'm just saying, over the history of humans,
yep.
Feudalism is what's reigned.
I get the history. I ask, have we not evolved enough? Are we not educated enough? Why can we not use AI to take us out of that?
Because maybe that's just how humans are derived. Like the top of the pyramid, there's certain, and a lot of the people who make it to the top are not good people.
And that's all I'm saying is,
and
people,
so like,
that's
how do you protect against that? A sociopath can be functioning.
That's my point. And I think that's the point, right?
Oh, for sure.
Right.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
No, and I'm not disagreeing.
But I'm just saying it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm just more accepting that is the structure of how things work. And like, we just try our best, basically.
Do you think that's how it should work? I mean, would you like fight to change that?
Oh, sure. I mean, I would like it if everybody just said, we're all having pina coladas and no worries, for sure. Absolutely. Like I'm a normal guy. I'm just telling you that like I'm accepting of like how systems work versus like, and everyone try, we'd be nice to other people.
Do you think you're
charities.
accepting of the system because it's worked for you?
Am I accepting of the system because it's worked for me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's worked for me. I mean, there's been things that have not gone right in my life, but no, I'm just accepting because I'm kind of a philosopher, science person. Like I just look at how things are and look at history. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, I've had a nice life, so I guess I'm just more. It's easier to have that position. Let's put it that way. I'll agree with that.
There's definitely a bigger and growing gap between the ones that do not have anything and the ones that have everything, simply because that's how economics work these days. The investments opportunities, and you can multiply them much more versus people at the bottom. They're pretty much living paycheck to paycheck, right? That's sort of like they cannot think about investments and savings. And so at first I thought when you mentioned biology, I thought, well, maybe you're talking about survival of the fittest, right? Because you think about the evolution. The people who live in paycheck to paycheck, they find extra time because they're ambitious, because they want to grow, because they want to achieve American dream. They want to grow better and get better and better. In this case, they kind of slowly rise up, and so there is an opportunity, again, pure due to the evolution, to go up, right? On the other hand, the ones that already have plenty, the billionaires that are in the world, I mean, that typically by the third generation in families, wealth disappears. So like, whoever's on top, they eventually is going to go down, versus there is always an opportunity for people to go up. And so again, if they believe in evolution, in this case, survival of the fittest, people are going to succeed.
Like think about elite universities as like a gateway to better life, and I have lots of friends who went to Ivy League schools that let's just say they went to got in, and that they didn't have from the right they're the family their father went there or something. And they're moving that away. They're starting to remove that at Stanford and the other schools to give more opportunities to other people, which is a step in the right direction, right? To your point, like we can do things.
Yeah, but those schools are $100,000 a year, like USC or something, and so the opportunity still isn't there. Right. Whatever it is that they're doing, right?
I think it goes way deeper than that. I think that the limitations that it put on us are a result of choices before. It's a very slow and patient game. I mean, the people from the Reagan administration and the war on drugs that took the fathers out the homes, that made the moms single parents, who had the kids on the streets, like we're treading just to trying to keep up, so many systematic things have been put in place that affect us years later. That Ivy League school, like we're just trying to like get out of poverty, or we're just trying to graduate school. I just think it's a slow, intentional on how they put these barriers in, and we are fighting the results of that. So I can't even think about Ivy League school. It's,
I was just giving it as an example of like
right.
Trying to make it where there's more opportunity, because that is a place where then it can give you more opportunity. And that's just one example. And in general, the people if they're people who have power, or like it's easier to go up knowing somebody versus here's my resume. If it's my resume and your resume, the same thing, right? We have the exact same resume, but I know the guy, I'm gonna get the job, like if it's just same, and like that's just kind of what I'm trying to say is that like
that's a privilege. Right.
It's just luck.
No, it's a privilege. It's an institutionalized
and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with privilege.
Privilege is luck.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't deserve anything. Isn't that what privilege is? Like you're saying you didn't deserve to have that advantage in essence? I just think of it as luck.
It's not necessarily a thing about deserving this. It's more so about this thing about an inherent advantage that you have been able to have.
Yeah, but why though?
Because of us operating in systemic and institutional barriers.
A system that kept you privileged.
Right.
Right, but again, I didn't choose to be born the way I did, or anybody, like you just were born that. It was just some people are lucky and some people aren't. It's just that simple. And it's hard to accept. The world's a cruel place. I'm sorry. Like it's just the truth.
The American dream is dead.
Real quick, my name is Mark. I'm editing this video right now. You might have noticed this channel has 0 subscribers right now, and that's because I'm just starting, and it's my dream to be able to make you guys more of these debates. So if you could, please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and it would help me out a ton. So thank you.
If you look at the numbers, America is still the #1 country for accepting immigrants in the world. More people are trying to come here than anywhere else in the world. And, perhaps to them, that's because the American dream, is still alive.
Are we not currently trying to dismantle that dream? I mean, the very thing that we're watching on
No,
TV
definitely not. That's totally different.
It's not.
That's completely different.
Yeah, well,
so?
the immigration, I mean, it just seems like immigration.
But you would all agree there are two different types of immigration, right? There is illegal immigration, there is the people who are breaking the law and crossing the border. Like, I grew up in a country where if you cross the border illegally, you're pretty much immediately shot. Right. So you try to actually live in a country where if you leave the country, you're going to be immediately shot. So like that kind of thing did not exist. And so I know, again, me and many of my friends, we all kind of like went through quite a significant amount of effort to come here legally, apply for visas, wait for not the asylum. Some people came for the asylum as they were persecuted recently in Russia. But there is legal immigration, sort of like that's what sort of I completely support. And of course, any country actually would benefit from it. And America significantly benefits from it. Japan, for example, significantly doesn't benefit from it, if that's the right expression. They barely allow any immigration whatsoever. And as a result, the country is declining. But here, illegal immigration is plentiful, but illegal is, I totally do not support that.
It's interesting seeing the perspective from people who come into the United States, what their perception of the American dream is, and people who are already here or generational who are here, and what our version of the American dream is.
Well, I mean, there's a definition of its upward mobility, right? It's sort of like you, over time, maybe compared to your parents, maybe compared to yourself as you start to live in this country, there's an opportunity here for upward mobility, right? And if you, through hard work and perseverance, that's kind of like in general, there's many other aspects like luck, and sometimes it's whom you know and some other things, but it's primarily hard work and perseverance, you can live better.
And the other thing about America is like we haven't, when you look at like the science and technology scores, we haven't been in the top 10 in a long time. But what America always is #1 at? Confidence. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 27. And like, that's really what it takes. You just have to be confident. You just have to go out and take risk. And Americans are still the best at that. Like, there's no one in the world I'll put up against the risk taking, the confidence to go do stuff and create stuff than Americans. Like, we're not the most educated. Like, there's lots of problems, but time and time again, Americans they play to win. And I don't know. I mean, like, there was the declines, and it's easy to be negative, and like, especially right now, I can feel it, and I understand. But it's like, I don't know, there's something about it where the people believe here. They still believe. And like their belief is being challenged, there's no question, but people still believe, and there are opportunities without question. There's just more, I just think it's just more people. There's more competition than, there's just a lot more people than there were 30 years ago.
But I also feel that our arrogance sometimes, our confidence goes to arrogance. And the arrogance is something that can become a little bit offensive. And so Americans are kind of pushing in a way that, I don't know, it's almost like stepping on toes at some point.
Yeah, but I think, like, I lived in Italy half the year for 13 years, and like, the arrogance, and I have lots of European friends, the arrogance there is very different. It's an entitled arrogance. There's a little of it now, but it's like, I'm just meaning that like people are willing to go after it. That's what I mean by confidence.
I appreciate that, and I do get that. Yes, I do.
I think there's a large population of Americans who are not privileged with the opportunity to have arrogance, because what they are dealt with is survival, and there's never an opportunity to get on level ground to even start to have the arrogance. Generationally, we're trying to put ourselves in a position to where we can be a part of the race. So when I say it's your perception of what American dream is, for one population, American dream may be the whole family coming together and getting one house, or getting out of poverty, or adding to your portfolio. I just think it's really based off of the experience, the vision, the experience in which you've had access to even know what's possible. So.
Yeah, I think as I hear all of y'all talking, there's a couple of things that I want to address. You had mentioned when you came from Russia with $1,000 in your pocket, you worked for a year and a half, you saved up some money, and we're able to put down money for a house. And it's really important to acknowledge that these were really different circumstances to be able to achieve that beforehand, right? Like, we are constantly evolving. I'm thinking about, you know, my mother who came as a Cambodian refugee after the genocide, and she was able to attain what someone could consider an American dream. I grew up, you know, upper middle class. And even then, it's interesting because as the American dream evolves, so does what is required to maintain that evolve. It's becoming so much more difficult to maintain that dream. We know that you're so much closer to falling into houselessness than you are actually being able to move upward into being rich.
I guess I raised my hand because as soon as I heard the word American dream, I raised to support it, not because I believe that it's dead. So my answer is completely the opposite. I grew up in the Soviet Union, and so there's no American dream. Everything is all related to whom you know, and whether you can bribe people at the right time, right? So there was like barely any upward ability unless you fall within certain families, so you make the sort of the right friends. So I came to this country just over 30 years ago for an American dream, and I'm living it. And so, like, over the time, with hard work, with perseverance, you know, and it's been achieved. And so many of my other Russian friends and other Europeans whom I know, the sort of Latin American people, they came and they achieved pretty much the same thing. They come, they get good education, and they come here, they get good work, and then they succeed at life. Not everybody is achieving the sort of, you know, necessarily the same level as I did, but, you know, many of them achieved more, many of them achieved a little bit less.
Do you think if you arrived today, as opposed to 30 years ago, that the same thing would happen?
100%.
Do you?
100%, because
Okay.
I do the same thing happening still. People come here, sometimes they're already educated somewhere else, sometimes they come here for education. If you get a good education, if you have, you know, good enough brain, then you expose yourself to good professional opportunities, and those professional opportunities, or maybe you just become an entrepreneur, right? So, and then you have an opportunity in this country to
I
continue
see
to
where
go
your
up.
perspective is. People who come into the country don't necessarily have to deal with the systematic issues. You get to come with the privilege, so you don't have to face some of the obstacles. But I do believe that the American dream is still a thing. I think the original conception of it back in the Gilded Age, where it's like a white picket fence, that idea is dead, but it's a evolving idea. The more access that I have, the more my perception of the American dream changes. And while there is a wide wealth gap, the majority of the millionaires in the United States don't come from trust funds. They're self-made. So I think the original American dream was to dedicate 20 years of your life, 30 years of your life doing a career that you hated in hopes that one day you don't have to do it anymore. I think the new American dream is doing something that you love so you never have to retire. So for that reason, I believe that the American dream is evolving. There's always been systematic barriers for us. That's always been a thing. It's just kind of how we overcome that and utilize what we have today.
You have to use a historical perspective, right? Think about how much more opportunity there is now than 100 years ago, 200 years ago. I mean, the thing about America is that it had a nice run post-World War II. The whole world got destroyed, and so America ran a current account deficit or a surplus and a capital account surplus, and the whole world was pegged to us. So we provided everything to everybody, and so it was a very easy opportunity. And so the 50s and 60s shouldn't looked at as like something that was normal. It was an aberrational period, like relative to history of any country. So like people look at that as a golden age, but it was a golden age. It was never something that was going to last. And so you have so many more people, the world's competitive, everybody sees everything on the internet, so there's this idea of like, oh, the people are doing well, so then it feels that. But I think people work hard here. I think there's more opportunity. I lived in Europe and Italy for a while, and like he said, I mean, I've been to Moscow, but there's a lot of countries where there's not nearly as much opportunity. So relative to the opportunity set that was, I think that's probably fair, but I think there's still tons of opportunity here, and people every day are getting things done. It's more competitive in some sense.
In the last 50 years, as much as we think that America is so far ahead, we're actually declining. Our strength in the world and the economy, everything is going downwards. And you could even compare it to like a Roman Empire. exactly with what you're saying, and I 100% agree, but it is the people at the top are still going to live their quality lives, but more and more, like a greater percentage is going to get that squeeze, and we're going to live in it. So are we learning from our history, or are we just going to go repeat it? You know, that's kind of the thing I'm saying.
America is the greatest country on earth.
My perspective is because this is my people's land. You know, I come from the Shawnee and Apache tribe between Kansas City and Oklahoma. This land is rich. This is the original Egypt. So to me, because my roots run deep here, this is the most place that I feel home. There have been catastrophic events to many populations on many continents around the world. But this land, this soil, this place where we are, this is my home. And because of that, this is the best place.
I am exceedingly proud to be an American. Like, I have always loved the fact that I'm an American, that I'm here. And I feel like America has lost touch with community. Like, we've just started kind of tucking everything away the way that you would put like a old grandmother or maybe like a mentally challenged person away in a room and not let people see it when they come over. It's like we used to support Americans. I used to feel that, and I don't feel that anymore.
I am so grateful for being in a place, living in a place that has such diversity. But I really struggle because of this empire, because of the ways imperialism has shaped the world. You know, I hear us making a lot of comparisons between America and Europe, but the world is so much larger than America and Europe. It's significantly larger. And those are billions of people who have been negatively affected, to say it not lightly, as a result of this empire. And so I can't discount that, and that makes me really stop firmly, meaning like, this is not the greatest country in the world, but I also don't think that any country is really the greatest country in the world. If only I wish, though, that America took seriously the land that it was on and its ability to really tend to it in ways that tended to the health, you know.
Americans didn't. It was colonizers.
No, of course.
Right?
Like, well, I'm thinking like
that's why it's
like
original Americans.
Original Americans.
Colonizers is the reason why we're
indigenous
doing all
folks,
that.
for sure, absolutely. You know, we think about like food forests, you know, and old growth forests, and the ways that they were maintained in respect for the land and being in reciprocal partnership with the land and not dominating over the land. So where I'm coming from is, like thinking about colonialism and imperialism and the ways that this empire is so deeply rotted in its core for those reasons. So I don't think it's the greatest country.
I mean, I think about it a little differently. Like, I think the land thing, like, America has the most strategic, like, natural resources. You have two oceans on both sides. You have tons of fresh water, oil, gas. Like, you have, like, Americans are a little spoiled relative to, we have a couple wars, but like relative to where the region of where you guys are in Eastern Europe, I mean, you can look at the boundaries have been changing for thousands of years,
hey,
right?
I'm from Chechnya.
Yeah,
like, my hometown was like completely destroyed.
So people here have no idea, like, if you lived in America your whole life, you have no idea what that's about, you know, or in certain parts of Asia. So there's, in some ways, yes, it is the greatest from just a natural, but like, yeah, this government, it's tough to like say the greatest. I don't know, it seems a little arrogant.
That's American.
For sure. 100% agree. 100%.